Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm Nick Daschel and I cover Oregon State football for the Oregonian and OregonLive. Well, this is it. We're done. The 2024 season's finished. It ended Friday with when the Beavers lost at Boise State 34-18 at Albertson Stadium. OSU came up one game short of bowl eligibility, assuring a long off season of soul-searching roster improvement and, probably some player development into as well. Joining me, as always, is former Oregon State defensive end Isaac Hodgins. Isaac, I usually prepare a little agenda, but it's kind of loose. But I figured, God, people come up to me all the time and tell me they love them some Isaac Hodgins. I mean, they love hearing your opinions, because you're kind of unvarnished and, you say what you think instead of trying to be PC. And so they love that stuff. And I feel like they learn something, especially when you start nerding out on the defensive stuff. They love hearing that stuff. So,
the curse
so I
of
think I'm going to start
genuineness.
today with what's on your mind about Oregon State football?
I think, honestly, for me, I've been in these guys' position before. I'm hurting for those seniors, obviously, because I've been in that position where, you come one game short of bowl eligibility. It reminds me of the 2019 season. And so I feel for those guys first and foremost. But honestly, I feel a lot of hopefulness for this program going forward, just because of, you just look across the board how many young guys they had playing throughout the season who were starting in, middle linebacker, corner, getting good snaps at running back, quarterback, wide receiver. Like, you got a lot of young guys getting a lot of experience that can never hurt you as a future in the program. Now, it definitely can hurt you present day, which we saw it did. But as a program going forward, that's always great to have these young guys who get experience very early on. So it's something they're gonna need going forward, and I feel hopeful about it in Social Beaver Nation.
The only difference between what you're talking about is, 20 years ago that would have been great. We just never know who's going to stick around and who's going to bolt for the transfer portal, and we can kind of get to that later. But those are always some things. You see a young guy and you go, God, he's going to be great in a couple of years. You just hope he's not wearing silver and blue or green and yellow or something else. You kind of want to see him develop as in an Oregon State uniform. But
that's kind of that's the hard part. But I think guys like Skylar Thomas, Jaden Robinson, Joshua Gray, I hope some of these guys' leadership kind of wore off on everyone else, because these are guys who had plentiful of opportunity to leave and to go to a different program and be contributors or starters or whatever it may be. So I just hope that Coach Bray and this coaching staff, when they do hit the recruiting, the recruiting trail, they're looking for those guys who are like, hey, I want to develop. I want to be with this team because I know, hey, this is a program I want to be with, and this is a school I want to go to, regardless of what coach is there or anything else like that, which is tough to find nowadays, but I don't think it's impossible.
Well, that was a point that I made when I asked Trent a question. It was probably a week or two ago about the transfer portal and what's the sales, what's the pitch to the guys on your roster, and will one of the pitches be look what happened to all these guys that left last year. Maybe they got some money, but most of them have not done what they did at Oregon State. I mean, look at Silas Bolden. You look at the two guys who went to Florida State. You look even Easton and Akili Arnold. I mean, I thought they were. I don't know. And Damian Martinez didn't have as good. I mean, he's in a good situation, but I don't know that any of them had the production they had at Oregon State. And Trent's point was, you came here for a reason. You came here because you were a fit for our program, and maybe you're not a fit at other places, and
right.
We're going to put you in the best spot possible if you want to get to the next level to show off what you can do. And so I don't know if that I don't know whether that will resonate or not with some players, but.
And I know what else resonates as a young high school player is what resonates is you show up to Corvallis, there's nothing else to do other than to play football, go to school, and then maybe party a little bit, Corvegas and whatnot. But that's the main sentiment that people come to Oregon State. They're like, hey, this is a place where I could focus on football. There's not a lot of outside distractions, and I can master my craft in order to get to the next level. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal of playing college football. You want to get to the next level and get to the NFL, right? And I will say, I'll add this note, out of most people who I talked to who left Oregon State, most people who I talked to, there's this sentiment of like, man, we had it good at Oregon State. Like the grass isn't always greener on the other side, whether that be the culture of the football team or just like the feel of the school and the city. It just isn't like Oregon State. Oregon State has something special that, keeps guys like Steven Jackson coming back all these years, still returning back to this place and watching games and pouring back into the program and the team. So there's definitely something special about Oregon State. I mean, even guys that go on to the NFL, they talk about like, man, it's just not like how it was, back when it was the summer of 2022 with the Beavs and we were grinding and competing. Like Oregon State's a special place. So I hope that message gets to this next generation of college football players.
Well, I mean, I look at a guy like Silas Bolden, and I don't know what kind of money he got at Texas. I mean, maybe it was $500,000. I don't know, and that's good money. And everybody's got to do what they got to do for their family. But
right, if
you just went there because you thought that was going to be a better spot for you to get to the NFL, I mean, it just didn't happen. He's got 18 catches for I don't know, not much, and. I mean, you put him in Oregon State's offense this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have. I'm pretty sure he would have blown up. He would have had a huge year at Oregon State.
Yeah, and I think at the wide receiver position, some of that hard decision for them really comes down to like, hey, who's going to be my quarterback? Who's going to be the guy who's throwing to me? Like who I could build confidence with, and I can have the best shot at having that blow up season, right? And I think that's where Coach Bray and the rest of the coaching staff's focus should be on is like, who's going to be our quarterback next year? Who's the guy we could go get to bring into this program to give confidence to other people to commit to staying here and playing here? Because there's definitely, I mean, we showed some things offensively that, you can be in a pro style offense and do well at the next level. And guys have shown doing that at Oregon State.
I mean, guys like Silas and Damian Martinez are probably going to be in this college football playoff. So there's that, and maybe that was a goal. I don't know.
And they're younger in their careers too. I think Silas probably has 2 more years or something of the sort.
No, I think he's down to it was either this year or maybe next. I don't know. I think he was a junior. He's got 1 more year, but. Yeah,
it's hard to keep track of all these. When you're old like me and you're around for 6 years, it's hard to keep track of how many years people have. You're like, dang, you only got 2 more years. I got like 5 left. How is this possible?
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of go with the 2 big topics today, and one of them is the game itself. We'll start with that. The game at Boise, where I felt like it came down to a couple situations in the first half that really,
I agree,
kind of turned the game. I felt like the first one was the first drive of the game where Boise State drove, scored a touchdown. Oregon State had some chances to get them off the field. They couldn't.
Yeah.
They got I thought Boise got a real favorable spot on the 4th and 1 play.
Yeah.
I've seen this on social media about, they were showing that the guy was putting the chain and where that didn't mean it. It was the spot.
It was the spot. That was a super favorable spot. And I think part of it had to do with the guy who was carrying the ball. I think, the refs are kind of like, oh, he must have got the first down. You just see a big scrum and it just seemed like they were spotting the ball and then they kept drifting this way. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, he was nowhere.
Well,
in my opinion,
Trent did say at halftime, and then he said after the game both times that he saw the referee crew and he went, "It's going to be one of those days." And
is that what you said? Who said that, Coach Bray?
Yeah, he said that.
You kind of get a feel for some of these.
It's
some
like
of these umpires.
You just kind of know what's going to. But I felt like that drive there, if you stop Boise State, get them off the field, I'm not saying the game they're going to win the game, but it certainly would have given Oregon State some momentum instead of giving up a touchdown, then starting at the 5-yard line with your first drive.
You look at all the games that we did win this year was, hey, we're getting stopped on those first drives when the defense is out there and kind of killing their offense's momentum. And then what you do is you kind of build your own team's confidence of like, hey, we just got, a Heisman winner off the field. And so I agree, though. I thought that first drive was instrumental. And then the drive, I don't know if it was the first or second drive for our offense where there was the illegal motion and then there was the holding. And that was just like,
the first two drives were just littered with penalties. But I didn't even think those were the other one that was the big one to me was, okay, Oregon State, Hank runs at 83 for a touchdown, cuts the lead to 14-7. There's about a minute 40 left before halftime. That's where your defense has got to come out, make a stand, and say, no, you're not going to score for halftime, knowing you're getting the ball to start the second half.
Right.
Instead, Boise just goes right down the field and scores right before halftime and makes it 21-7. I felt like the ball game wasn't over then, but it just felt like this isn't going to be Oregon State's
14-7 is a lot different than 21-7, you're right. But I come back to that second drive with the holding and the illegal motion. Like, I was just, that, because that drive was just the momentum. It was just so good. And then those momentum killers came in and just, in my opinion, as a fan watching it, it just kind of crushed my spirit of it. It was like, here we go again.
Well, they got a false start on the first play, and that stadium, to be fair, is pretty loud. It's small, but it's loud, and I'm sure some of that stuff rattled them a little bit. They just were. It took a little while to adjust to the crowd noise and everything there, but
it doesn't help starting a drive on your own 10-yard line either. So,
but then it felt like, okay, it's 21-7. Okay, you got to come out of the locker room and make a statement. Instead, 3 and out, start the second half, and it just felt like it's not going to go the Beavers' way today.
Yeah, and it was just a little bit too late, too little, too late. I thought Darius Clemens had kind of a breakout game. And, I'm hoping I don't know what his eligibility is like, but I'm hoping he can kind of stick with the program and watch this get built back up because he's definitely showed himself and proved himself to be a weapon. It was just too little, too late, I thought. And then obviously
I think he's got 2 years. I have to go back and look because you always have to look and see when did he start. Where's the COVID year and all that? But I know he's got at least one, and I think he might have 2 years left.
Yeah,
I'm not positive, but that game was really. I was like, God, where was that 6 games ago, or something like that?
Yeah, I think he was probably dealing with some injuries or something, and then just could never get that momentum going. And finally, man, he blew up this game. It was awesome.
Yeah. So
between him and Hank, and it was just like, man, if we could just put a little bit more together a little bit sooner, if we would have had some of those bigger plays earlier on, I think the commentators were saying something along the lines of like, this is a team like most of our wins came from either being ahead or we're right there neck and neck. So playing from behind isn't our strong suit.
Genty went he had 37 carries for 226. I didn't feel like Oregon State did a bad job on him. I thought outside of a couple plays, I thought they did an okay job on him. Which is
wild to say because it's like 226. You're like, that's not a very good job. But then you're like, this is who we're talking about. I think they did a good job in the sense that they limited the explosive runs to a degree. Obviously there are still some 15-plus yard runs that were sprinkled in there, but they limited like this not miraculous, but like this amazing performance by Genty. Those highlight clip type moments, there was a few in there, but it wasn't like what we saw all season leading up to this game. So part of it was that we loaded and stacked the box. So it's like, you got to stop the run. And we were dedicated to stopping the run to a certain degree, but then we got hurt a little bit in the passing game for sure.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at the stats here. The big rushing plays. He had a 16, 11, a 12, a 13, a 60, a 10, and a 26. So
yeah, I think that 61 came towards the end of the game, didn't it?
Yeah, it was in the late third quarter.
Yeah,
and he had a 26-yarder late in the fourth quarter. Yeah. So I guess he had 7 runs of 10 plus yards.
To be fair to him, he did get one called back, which was a pretty amazing run, but doesn't count.
There's no question he's a good back, but 70, 96, so he had roughly 150 yards on 7 plays, and then he had 100, and then he had like 75 yards on the other 30. So
yeah,
I felt like for the most part, Oregon State he just had a few too many explosive plays, but
yeah.
I didn't feel like that was what beat them. I felt like what beat them was the quarterback, Maddox Madsen. It just seemed like whenever he needed to make a play with his legs or arms, he did it. And they could give Genty all they want, all he got. I think they had a shot to beat him if Madsen had made a bunch of plays, which he did.
And you could tell by the way we were playing defense, we were sold out on, trying to stop the run to the best of our ability. Obviously, it didn't play out the way we wanted to, but that kind of hurt us in the passing game where, Madsen kind of just tore us apart. It just looked like we were playing kind of soft coverage, and there was just so much space between the wide receiver and the corners and the DBs.
Yeah.
And it just looked like Madsen was kind of just finding these open guys and hitting them. And then just, letting them do the work with their legs type of deal. So that was kind of a bummer to see that, like, hey, if we're going to stack the box, we can't be giving up these big explosive pass plays either.
Right.
So that was, I think that's ultimately what kind of was the difference in the game.
I will say, after watching Boise State play, if they run into a team that can throw the ball, they're not winning. I don't think they can. I don't think they can slow down a good passing attack. They will need Genty to just go crazy.
It's going to have to be a shootout for sure.
I thought Oregon State could have. It just seemed like Oregon State had guys open all day long.
Yeah, and to be honest, I honestly don't think their offensive line will be able to withstand some of these bigger opponents, just because, I watched multiple plays where Samisi was walking back offensive lineman into the quarterback's lap, and somehow the quarterback still does this circus throw and catch, and, it's a big gain, but, I think their offensive line is definitely going to be a problem for them in the playoffs for sure. That's the biggest difference between, good teams and great teams in college football is the front seven of the defense and then the offensive lines. That's the biggest jump from college to NFL is the defensive lineman. That's the biggest jump. So when you start playing these first round draft pick defensive linemen in the playoffs, things change real quick.
Well, I mean, it's long been known that the hardest position to recruit is defensive line because there's just not that many good ones, and I mean, except you, of course. But
no, I mean, defensive line is honestly it's kind of flipped in the NFL. Is offensive line is the hard position to fill because there's actually a lot of good defensive linemen. It's just very hard to find these offensive linemen who are super talented to match up with these guys. Because, I mean, if you really think about it, what you're doing in the NFL is you're investing in one defensive lineman to take on two offensive linemen. And, you got to be really talented to do that. And so that's actually the biggest jump is, I remember Coach Waz and Coach Mahalchek, they would all say that like the biggest jump from college football to the NFL is the defensive line. It just takes a huge jump of the talent. And, you got guys who are 350 pounds like Vita Vea and they run a 4.8. It's like, dude, what? And he's on the same defensive line as, freaking, I don't know any of the defensive linemen on the Bucks, but he's with some other good guys too.
Well, that's why of the last 7 years I've been back doing Oregon State football. Who was the big giant defensive lineman you guys had in the middle? That what was his name? He was. Who's that?
Elu Aiden?
No, he was the guy that came from the JC that he never really panned out because he never.
Jordan Whitley.
Right, yeah, Whitley.
Yeah.
He was the one guy I always thought if he could just get in shape and stay on the field, he could have made a huge difference because he was
strong, athletic, super fast.
And I mean, he was a former running back. I just felt like, man, he was a difference maker, but he never could stay on the field.
It's funny at defensive line. Those are usually the guys who do really good. Is the former running backs, former tight ends like Warren Sapp, J.J. Watt. It's these skill guys who get big all of a sudden who do really well.
Yeah. Then the second topic we'll get into is just the season itself. Where'd you think it went wrong, or did it? Well, I mean, was this team never much more than a 5-7 team to begin with, or did you feel like where did it go wrong?
Honestly, I think it was just one of those seasons where you just didn't have enough depth going around. I think they had a fairly good team going in. I think the main problem point was the quarterback. I mean, I think that was the bottleneck for the whole season, other than the first four games or so. That was where, it seemed like everything was good, but it was kind of like a false safety net. So I think that quarterback was kind of that quarterback position was the problem the whole time of not really having that solidified and not having a guy to go with. And then just many games you would just go into, it didn't seem like there was much of a game plan. It was kind of like we were still it felt like we were at scrimmages still kind of figuring out who's our guy. And it felt like that was kind of the state we were in the whole season. I think that mixed with, some injuries at key positions that we weren't very deep at, I think that was kind of the difference of the season. And then you just lose all momentum at that point, in my opinion.
So, I mean, this is totally Monday morning quarterbacking because, I mean, that's kind of what you do when you're not playing the game. You can second guess things, but two things I felt like. One was quarterback. I mean, I think we're always going to look back and wonder, should Gulbranson been the starter from the beginning? Yeah. I know, Ryan Gunderson, he's the coach and he sees these guys a lot more than I do. But I just felt like in camp, I didn't see Giovanni being that much better than everybody else. And I just felt like Ben has the experience, and he kind of showed it late in the season that he could make some things happen through the air. but I just felt like maybe they were just so married to want to, have a mobile quarterback.
That's what I think it was.
Yeah, and I mean, in the end, the guy they should have had was the guy that they ended up with, and
that's exactly what I think it was. Is this married to this idea of like, oh, this is kind of what everyone's doing. We need a mobile quarterback. We need this. We need that. And I think at what I saw going into the season is like, hey, we lost a lot of guys last year, a whole new coaching staff, whole new team. It's kind of a coin flip on either this is going to be a rebuild year or this is going to be a really good year. Honestly, in my opinion, if this was like a 10-2 type of season, I would have been shocked personally, because there was just a lot of obstacles, a lot of things to fight through for this team. And so I think we probably can all say at this point, Ben Gulbranson would have been the guy to go with at the beginning of the season. And who knows what November could have looked like, because that's when you're playing your best football as a team. But, we'll never know.
No, we'll never know. But that's one thing. The other one, I just felt like, and again, this Monday morning quarterbacking, but was Jermaine Terry. He didn't catch a pass until Game 5. Well, look what happened once he started catching passes. Yeah. He became kind of a monster out there. He was pretty productive. I think he ended up with 24 catches in the last 7 games. And I mean, how you couldn't locate him from Game 1 is just beyond me.
And I'll be honest, I think Jermaine, what JT did towards the end of this season, I think he made a name for himself, honestly, to be able to go either to the next level or like give himself some leverage here. And I don't know how many years he has left. Maybe 1.
No, he's done. He's done.
He's done. Okay, that's what I thought. But I think he made a name for himself, and I think Riley Sharp kind of showed like, hey, there's some room for tight ends in the NFL to get their shot at making a team coming from Oregon State. You don't got to be necessarily Luke Musgrave or Tegan Quatoriano, but if you're an athlete and you go out there, show you can play tight end, you know what you're doing, and I know JT can and will. I think he's going to go out and make someone's team, honestly, or at least get a shot.
Play he made, the touchdown he made against Washington State was exactly the sort of play I thought he was brought. He was why he was brought from Cal. One of the reasons where he could get downfield, he like not every tight end can do, and get and make a play on. He won a 50-50 ball running in stride. Those are the kind of plays that I felt like he was brought to Oregon State to do, and we didn't really see much of that till the second half of the season. Well,
I think you're getting kind of at the heart of, I think, is like the secondary thing of what kind of went wrong with this season is, Oregon State tried to get away from their identity offensively of being like this pro style offense, using your tight ends, using play action pass, and tried to, I don't know, morph into this run and shoot type of offense. I don't really know what to call it. I wouldn't say it's run and shoot, but we relied super heavily on our run game, which is awesome. But I just feel like that dynamic of that play action pass, that naked boot, all those kind of things that made us a good offense the past few years, kind of ran away from it for some reason. I don't know if they didn't think we had the talent or the ability to do it, or they just wanted to go with a different direction. I don't know, but it kind of feels like we try to run away from that, especially in the middle of the season. We try to run to, hey, we're just going to put a running quarterback in there and we're going to let him use his legs and try to go get a first down every play. It's like, it's not really a good plan.
Defensively, it just felt like it was an uphill battle all season because the injuries up front on defense to start the season were going to make it a challenge. They were just the depth was just challenged right from the get-go when they had 3 or 4 guys out for the year up front.
Hey, I'm a defensive guy. I'm going to just blame this all on the offense. Don't ask my opinion. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, it just stripped them of all the depth they had up front on defense, and so it was always going to be an uphill battle. And and in general, the injuries in the secondary too hurt some stuff. But I'm just wondering, do you think they're okay with the defense they're running, or you think it needs a makeover, or you think they just need some dudes to come back? Or
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell with all the injuries, like you're kind of saying, but at the same time, I kind of feel the defense was in the same scenario as the offense was. Like, game plan wise, it kind of felt like our defense was basically saying like, hey, our 11 are better than your 11, so we're going to just play straight up. We're just going to play cover 2. We're not going to do anything up front. We're going to play square, and you're going to know what we're going to come out like, almost like a Utah. Like, that's what Utah does, is they rush 4 defensive linemen and they play cover 2. Like, they don't do much else other than that. They're basically saying our 11 is better than your 11. And I feel like that's what I feel like that was the kind of the goal or the feeling of this defense this past year. And I just don't think they had the guys necessarily to be able to do that, just because they're so young. Like we said, even the linebacker Melvin, who was starting, this was his first season starting. Both the inside linebackers, this was their first season starting. So even the guys who are technically vets and older, they were still fresh. You only had one or two returning starters from last season. Is that what it was?
On defense?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Jaden Robinson, I think, was the only.
I think he was the only one.
Yeah, he was the only. JT was the only. JT and Josh Gray were the only 2 on offense, and Jaden was the only one on defense.
And so it's one of those scenarios where it's like, man, you just don't have the experience defensively yet. I feel like to just kind of sit there and go, hey, we're gonna go 1-on-1, we're gonna go big on big, and just our 11 versus your 11. I think you got to have a little bit more of an attack mentality. Like, we're going to bring some different schemes and some blitzes, and we're twisting and we're doing all those kind of things. They started to get back to that towards the end of the year. But I even think this past game versus Boise State, it wasn't very promising. We were just playing such soft coverage. There was just too much, like, I don't know much about defensive back, but I do know when I was in the defensive team meetings with Coach Bray as the defensive coordinator, he was like, hey, we're challenging dudes at the line of scrimmage. We're playing press coverage. We're playing tight. We're not going to give them any room to breathe. We're going to tell them where they could throw the ball. And it just didn't look like that was the defense we were playing this whole season.
I was going to ask, where do you think OSU needs the most help in the transfer portal? But I mean, I think it's got to start at the quarterback position. And I'm not saying they need to go to the transfer portal, but I think the first thing, this is what I think, is the first conversation you need to have is with Ben. Ben, do you want to come back next year? Do you want to be our quarterback? We're going to give you a shot to be our quarterback if you want to come back. And then build an offense around what he does best. Because he will be a 6th year. I mean, he's got a lot of experience, and that's kind of important, I think. And I know that's going to be unpopular. There's a lot of people that think that Ben sucks and he's too immobile. He's blah blah blah. I think he's pretty good. I mean, he's got some issues, but yeah. But that would be the first place I'd have to start, is with Ben. Do you want to come back, or do you want to go on to medical school?
Yeah, I would be curious to see what a Ben Gulbranson looks like, knowing he's the starter going into the season, right? Because he's never been in a situation like that. He's always been in the situation of either like, hey, I'm the backup, or I'm the 3rd string, or all these kind of different situations, rather than like, hey, I'm the guy going forward. Like, you could call it a quarterback battle or whatever you want to call it. But there's certain situations where you just know the guy is the guy. Like when DJ came, we all knew he was the guy, right? Everyone did.
Right.
So I'd be curious to see Ben in that situation, but I'd also be questioning if he's not like, hey, thanks for the ride. I'm going to go to medical school. So I'm not sure. I think that is definitely the first place to focus. I think the second place to focus is up front, offensive line and defensive line. go after it hard, because you're going to have Samisi is done. I'm pretty sure Joshua Gray is definitely done. He's going to the next level. So you got to revamp O-line, D-line, and that, like, let that be the strength of your team. And I think you could build around that. I think they have the skill players, honestly, necessary to build around that. Obviously, you could add a piece or two here or there, but man, you have a solid front. I mean, you got a team you're building right there.
Yeah, I was pulling up the roster here, and I meant to have this loaded already, because I think on the defensive line, they're going to have some guys back that we didn't even see this year. Several guys. Takari Hickel will be one of them.
That'd be a big addition.
He certainly would have made a difference. Nick Norris, who we never saw, he was a transfer from Northern Colorado. He was a senior, and I think they were counting on him pretty heavily. Kelsey Howard. I don't know. He's got an ACL. I don't know what shape he'll be in.
Yeah.
I
think at the end of the day, I think it's like, hey, either you go, you're trusting, like, hey, the guys we got, we're going to develop them, get them bigger, faster, stronger, or we're going to add a piece or two here. We're going to add an edge rusher. I think that's what we're kind of missing this past season is some consistent edge rushing ability. And then I also think, getting some guys up front who could kind of handle these double teams. Because I did see against Boise State, there's quite a few times we're getting knocked off the line of scrimmage, and you just gotta, if you want a solid team, you gotta be strong up front for sure.
Yeah, I was also a little bothered this year that Skylar Thomas was the team's leading tackler. I don't recall. That's been a while since the safety's been the team's leading tackler. This defense is always kind of.
That's the last time, I believe.
Yeah, which year?
I believe it was 2018. He would go around bragging like, "Oh, I got 144 tackles" or some crazy number. It's like, dude, it's not good. Like, it's not good that you're our leading tackler.
No, I mean, this defense is kind of built to funnel the ball to the inside linebackers, and I mean they weren't even. I'm not even sure that they were one of the top two, but anyway. You got to get back to where the inside linebackers are making the majority of the plays. So
you look back at when Oregon State was really good defensively. We had some really great inside linebackers, like Avery Roberts, Omar Spates, Easton Mascarenas, even Kyrie Fisher. Like, we had some good inside linebackers. I think the main thing you have to do defensively is you got to ask, like, who do we want to be? Do we want to be a defense that moves a lot up front? Do we want fast guys up front who can move a lot, or do we want big guys who could take on double teams and take on, just gap control? Because it kind of sounds like they were stuck in nowhere's land of like, hey, we want defensive linemen who are huge and just can't be moved. But then also we want you to be able to move and zip and zap. It's like, okay, you got to have one or the other, unless you're in the NFL and, you got both. But it's one or the other. So
what is this off season? What does it look like? Is December a time to kind of rest and reflect and hit it hard in January, or how do you? I mean, I kind of look at it like maybe say 2018 or 2019 off season that you would have went through.
Yeah. That's exactly right. This next month is going to be like, there's going to be some optional lifts. There's going to be some time for guys to kind of regroup, recover. Get focused on, getting ready for school and whatnot. And then once January, I believe it's like 4th or so, it's usually like the first week in January. Once that hits, like, we're back and running. Winter workouts, like, we're hitting the ground running, and it's time to get in shape bigger. And in the winter, we usually we don't even focus on conditioning. We focus purely on speed, strength, and getting bigger. And then once you get to the summer, that's where you're doing your summer conditioning. You're getting back in shape. You're running your 100-yard sprints. You're running your gassers and all the different horrible conditioning you do. But coming up, winter. It's like winter bulk. The kids are calling it the winter arc. You know what I mean? You got these goals. You you want to hit in summer. You gotta do your winter arc and start working in the winter, so that when you get to the summer, you're boom. You got your good summer goals. So your summer bod goals. So I just taught you and all the older viewers who watch Beaver Banter. That's kind of the slang that's going on right now. It's called the winter arc.
Does this team need to get bigger?
Yeah, I mean that is always priority number one. I mean that was my biggest downfall, right? Is I wasn't big enough, and my coaches made sure I knew that and made sure I was eating properly. But that's always the name of game of football. Get bigger. That solves a lot of problems.
Stay away from McDonald's and eat
some guys can't. Some guys, yes, stay away from it. Some guys are already too big. It's like, all right, you're big enough. Other guys, It's like, hey, go have another breakfast.
Yeah. The last question I got for you is, I got a Heisman vote, and it's down to, I mean, it's no secret, it's down to Ashton Jenney or Travis Hunter. I mean,
yeah,
anyone else, that seems like a reach. Who should I pick of those two?
I would hope you pick Ashton Jenney, so it makes us feel a little better about that loss. Be like, we lost to a Heisman winner. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? I'm picking Ashton Jenney. That's who I would pick if I were you. I just think Boise State isn't who they are without him. Period. I mean,
but is Colorado what they are without Travis Hunter? That dude was on. I mean, I've never seen a guy play.
They're not in the college football playoffs.
No.
They're in the same boat they would have been without him.
Yeah. Well,
here's what I tell you what, I am not big on like saying dudes are amazing. I always hated that. Like, I don't know. I was kind of a hater in football. Like, I was like, he's not that good. He's not that good. Remember week 2 or whatever it was when I came on this podcast, I was like, that dude Ashton Jenney is freaking good. Like, he's good. I don't say that about a lot of people. So
yeah,
he's a beast, man. I mean, he's a tough task to handle. I think he's a Heisman winner. I hope he is. He's a hell of a player.
It's gonna be close. I need to look a little bit more and see what, because I know what Gentry's done. Kind of. I don't know everything about Travis Hunter, so I got to start looking into him. But I mean, picture yourself. What if you played on the offensive and defensive line the whole game?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine doing that for 12 games?
Come on, give me a break, man. I played fullback. I played defensive line. What else do you want from me, man? You want me to go out there and play kicker too?
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah.
I was basically Travis Hunter before he was even a thing.
I was watching who's the Seahawk that returned the pick 6 for 90 some yards today, defensive lineman.
Yeah,
I was thinking about you watching him run. I was thinking, could Isaac Hodgins have finished off this run?
No, definitely not.
95 yards.
I'm quick, man. I'm not fast though. I'm definitely getting hawked by somebody. Probably the quarterback or the center or something. I'll probably get hawked by the center.
This dude's like 320 though. I mean,
yeah.
Leonard
Williams. That's what I'm telling you. NFL defensive linemen are different, man. They're different. Yeah. I tell you, I've worked out. I went to Exos when I went to Exos one time. I worked out with Javon Kinlaw. This dude was. I mean, I looked like a child. You know, obviously I was strong, so I lifted more than him. But I mean, like, I stood in front of him, and his body was like literally just like towering over me. It was insane. I was like, dude, this dude is a monster. He's huge.
When you started working out for the NFL draft with guys, did it take you very long to realize that you're a computer? You're selling. What are you selling? God dang, I'm blanking out what you're selling. You're selling copy machine equipment. That's what you're selling. Right. Did you realize that's what you were, and not an NFL defensive line?
Man, I kept. It was kind of after the foot injuries. You know, I had a lot stacked against me. You know, my height, my size, all that kind of stuff. when you got these foot injuries and you can't turn the corner very well, and you're short and you're a little chubby, it's like, got a lot going against you. But, I kept the faith to the end. And you know what? I was able to hang up the cleats going. You know what? I gave it my all. Yeah. I broke my foot beyond repair. I mean, there's nothing more I could have done. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the place you want to. That's how you want to leave football. You want to leave saying, "Hey, I did everything I could. I don't even want to go to the CFL because my body hurts too much." I mean, I just remember. Huh?
But there's a lot of guys that would have done that because they want to keep the dream alive.
Right. But I had exhausted all my resources, man. When I was at the Giants rookie mini camp, and the last day of practice, I was literally praying. I was like, God, just don't let my foot break. So I'm not looking for a job in a cast, because man, my foot was hurting, and I was like, man, I'm done. I exhausted all my resources.
Is your foot in good shape now?
Nah, I mean, it's a new normal. You know what I mean? It's a new normal. It's just, I'm used to it at this point. I'm down a lot of weight, so that helps.
Yeah. Well, I hate to tell you this, but the older you get, it doesn't get any better.
Yeah, my dad tells me that too. He had similar injuries. He's like, take it easy, it easy.
But your dad played fullback, which was like a position of car crashes.
Yeah, exactly. He likes to make the joke. He was 6'2" before he got in the NFL. Now he's 6 foot.
Yeah, no, he said that's a tough position, man. That's a man's position.
Oh yeah.
Not that yours wasn't, but the fullback, that's a man's position, man.
Defensive line's like a bunch of little like bumper car crashes. You don't let anyone gain too much momentum to hit you too hard, That's what I liked about it.
Well, anything else we should touch on, or should we kiss the season goodbye?
Man, I think we kiss the season goodbye, but I don't have to tell the Beaver fans this, but if you're a Beaver fan listening, which you are a Beaver fan if you're listening to this podcast, you're not any other fan if you're listening to this podcast. Just do what you've been doing basically your whole lifetime as a Beaver fan. Just keep believing, keep supporting the Beavs, and I really do think this ship is going to make a good course correction under Coach Bray, and I definitely believe all the experience these young guys got, if we can keep them for next season from going to the transfer portal, I think they're going to bring a wealth of knowledge to this next few years of Beaver football.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Isaac, I appreciate you having on the podcast this year. You've been a big addition, and hopefully I can twist your arm, and maybe we can do this again next year. We'll see how life goes.
Yeah, we'll see. It's been a blast, man. It's been amazing. Thank you for having me.
Anyway, this was it. So we're going to wrap it up here, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. We'll be back in August. So. For the first game is against those Cal Bears on August 30th. So anyway, we'll see you later.
Started off hot with a win. Go Beavs, baby. Yep. Let's go.